couple of weeks ago, I did a story on opioids and how there's now a shortage in the country, which happened during COVID 19. So, this story comes out from NPR. Changes in opioid supply create new risk as stay at home rules ease. So, there is some audio here that I'm going to play. Okay.
The pandemic has changed the supply of a number of goods, including illegal opioids, but there are different effects in different regions, as NPR's Yuki Noguchi reports.
As California went into quarantine in March, Joseph DeSanto says many drug dealers in Orange County retreated to Mexico.
They're worried about borders being shut down, so everybody kind of migrated south towards their hometowns. So we lost a lot of our larger dealers that supplied the smaller dealers.
So those addicted to heroin and painkillers first turned to different drugs. DeSanto, an addiction doctor, says many of his patients then found new sources of opioids.
And when they had to use another dealer, they would be getting a different strength, so they weren't really sure of how they should measure it and how much they should use. So we started seeing a lot of overdoses and a lot of overdose deaths in the first couple of weeks of the pandemic.
Meanwhile, on the opposite coast of the country in Cambridge, Massachusetts, opioid supply apparently remains dry.
No one's out on the street. It's just not out there.
Jack McEachern runs a Salvation Army residential drug recovery program there. He says it's not just that the dealers aren't getting shipments, their customers also can't get money to buy them.
So if you have a dope habit and, the way you hustle and make your money is shoplifting, well, stores are closed.
McEachern has been in recovery from opioid addiction for 2 decades himself. There's no national data about how the pandemic has affected overdoses, but McEachern says relapse and overdose rates near him have decreased, at least for now. The country's illegal drug trade, like everything else, has been disrupted by quarantine. Uttam Dillon is acting administrator of the Drug Enforcement Agency. He says that's especially true for methamphetamine, but also for cocaine and heroin.
We're seeing the availability of these drugs being impacted in a variety of locations throughout the country.
Dillon says some of the normal transit routes through Asia or South America have shut down. He also points to dramatic decreases in car and foot traffic to and from Mexico, the main source of America's heroin.
The ability of these drug trafficking organizations to move drugs across the southwest border, we believe, may be having an impact.
A decreased supply of drugs might sound good, but it also increases the risk of overdoses in the future, especially as many states reopen for business. Heidi Ginter is Chief Medical Officer of Recovery Centers of America, which operates 11 recovery centers around the country. During the lockdown, she saw an influx of patients unable to buy opioids, who then sought treatment to avoid painful withdrawal. People who reduce their use may be at especially high risk if they start using again.
You may see additional potency of drug available on the street, and then people whose tolerance has changed based on what they've been using. So we're pretty fearful about that, and we'll stay very vigilant to keep people safe.
That concern has led to talk of increasing distribution of naloxone, a medication often used to try to reverse an overdose. Eleanor McCants-Katz is in favor of that. She heads the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. But, she points out, the virus has also complicated the ability to treat people with naloxone.
In some areas, first responders, such as law enforcement, do not want to administer naloxone because they are afraid of being exposed to coronavirus. I found that very concerning because the option is that the person dies.
She says her agency is now sending training teams into communities to help them safely administer the naloxone while also managing the risk of exposure. Yuki Noguchi, NPR News.
Now, see, you don't even think about stuff like that. Now, these cops don't even, and first responders, they don't even want to give these drug addicts, when they overdose, naloxone because they don't want to make that contact with them and run the risk of getting COVID-19. Wow. My, have things changed. They have changed a lot, but y'all never lose sight of how the Black community was treated during the crack epidemic. There was no help, no lifeline, no rehab, no drug court, no nothing. All of the things that have been given to these opioid addicts to keep them out of jail. Oh, well, it's not a crime, it's a public health issue. Well, you weren't saying that during the crack epidemic, but my have things changed. The cops and the first responders do not even want to administer naloxone. So, like the woman said, so the other option is just let them die. Can you believe it? Now that is an option because nobody wants to touch anybody out here. So let me just go down here. All right, so far, when it comes down to the opioid plague, which is still going on strong in the country, it just kind of got pushed in the background because of COVID-19. There is no national data yet on the pandemic's impact on drug supply and overdose rates in the United States. But experts in addiction and law enforcement say the availability and prices of illegal drugs have changed in different areas of the country. And as drug users adjust to new patterns of use, that creating a patchwork of new overdose risk as well. The availability of street drugs vary. So, the lockdown has even impacted the drug dealer being on the streets. And if you're in an area that's locked down, it's almost impossible for them to be out there. Okay, the ability of these drug trafficking organizations to move across the southwest border, we believe, may have been impacted. Increased police presence and stay-at-home orders have also discouraged dealers and buyers from meeting in public. That appears to have affected the demand for the street drug in Cambridge, Massachusetts, where the opioid supply remains dry. A decrease of drugs might sound good, but it's also an increase the risk of overdoses in the future, especially as many states reopen for business. During the lockdown, the Recovery Centers of America, based in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania, saw an influx of low-income patients unable to buy opioids, who then sought treatment to avoid a painful withdrawal. Yeah, I guess they do, because, they said the opioid withdrawal is a tough one, and it's such a powerful drug. Most people that try to get help, they don't make it. They usually, just within days of getting out of rehab, they're back to getting high on the drug again. It's a very hard addiction to beat. Very hard. But y'all, please tell me what you think. I know the hospitals were also saying they were low on opioids in the country. And now you got the street drug, which is also running low for opioids. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.